If you have questions, jump right into it.
Coach, you've coached at Miami of Ohio, and so just you're kind of aware of what their program is about and the type of players they attract. What can you share about your time there and what you learned from that program?
Being a Louisiana boy, I didn't really know much about Miami of Ohio. I remember watching Ben Roethlisberger in a bowl game one time, and when I got the call to go there with Mike Haywood, I found out a lot about it. There's cradle coaches, and you go and you look at the wall, and you see all the coaches that have been there. You know, Woody Hayes, Eric Porsegan, Bo Schembechler, and you see the assistants, Sean Payton, Tressel, coach there. It's a who's who for us coaches. Really good institution, very good academically. It attracts a lot of kids from the Cincinnati and Ohio area, and was able to get some kids from Houston and off of really the Virginia, the Tidewater area, and we had a good football team. So I enjoyed my stay there, and I liked Cincinnati. Cincinnati was close by, so it was good to me.
Coach, you come in, obviously this is your first year, and it's kind of been like molding clay for you with all new personnel. And how do you feel going into the season about just how you've been able to put the defense together?
I think they have a grasp of most of it. What we're going to do just depends on what I think they do well. You really don't know when you're installing, going against the offense. They're always changing things. So I think we got a good idea of what we can do well, and we'll go from there, and it's going to be adjusting every week according to our personnel and who we're playing against.
What do you see from Miami, Ohio's offense and some of the biggest challenges there?
Quarterback's real shifty. He's a competitor. He's what I call a gym rat. If he was a basketball player, he's a guy that would be a point guard. He really runs the show. He doesn't throw a lot of bad passes. He'll tuck the ball and run. And because he's not a real big guy, you lose him sometime in there. So he's a general. They're skilled guys. They're shifty, not overly big. Offensive line's pretty big, and so we got a challenge ahead of us. We'll have to play well and play hard.
Cristobal and Dawson both mentioned that obviously there's a lot of young players on this team that are going to be earning playing time. You see it the same way with your defense?
Yeah, sure. We got some young guys, be their first times getting some reps, and but they'll get plenty of it. But we're going to need them too. We need a bunch of guys to play. We're not going to be able to just roll the older guys. So I'm excited to see some of the younger guys underneath the lights. It's going to be fun.
A lot of guys were in the mix for the quarterback spots during camp. Who have been the guys who maybe kind of risen to the top, at the camp's finish?
That's still the top kind of five guys, the Brown brothers, Porter, along with Davis, and then the Richard kid. TC's kind of playing the nickel right now. But it's been a revolving door. I think we'll have to play all of them and just kind of find out through the year which ones, are playing the best and go from there. But they all deserve the right to play.
I think their OC's in his first year in that role, but he's been there for 10 years now.
Yeah.
What type of challenge does that pose, and do you expect it to look totally different than what you've seen on tape? Or
You don't know. You really don't know. He's been there with them, so we're preparing for what we've seen in the past. And so you break down all the games and you go over those plays, but I'm sure there's going to be some things, some wrinkles in that football game that we haven't prepared for. We'll have to get adjusted quick. So a lot of times you got to play a lot of vanilla defenses or base defenses in order to get things fixed. But we'll see how the game goes and see, what's kind of their attitude of how they're going to attack us. Will they go fast? Will they huddle? Will they do a bunch of crazy formations? We just don't know. So we're just working everything that we've seen on film. That's all you can do.
Do you coach from the press box or the field?
I'm from the field.
You have to be on the field?
Yes, sir.
Coach, talk a little bit about Cam Kitchens, coming back as a reigning All-American. Has he taken up into a leadership role in this team, or just, some thoughts on Kitchens going into this year?
Of course, I don't know Cam before this year, so all I can do is judge for what I see. But he makes a bunch of plays at practice. He's not a very vocal guy, but he's always given great effort, and I think he'll be the leader by the way he plays, and he's already doing it by the way he practices. So he's had a good week of practice, last 2 weeks actually, and I think he'll play well in game one. He's making a bunch of plays out there.
How's the weak side linebacker competition going with the same group?
There's a bunch of them. It's revolving. Really, you've got Kiko, who's a Mike, And he plays a little bit of Will also, but all the other guys are rotating at Mike's and Will's. We're just trying to get as much depth as we can, and whoever goes out there is going to have to play like a one. So we'll see who plays the best, and whoever's playing the best will probably play the most reps.
How much do you think, I mean, obviously a lot of guys are going to be rotating in at defensive tackle, but Brandon's team that's going to be really kind of elevating himself, during camp. How much is he going to be on the field, and just how much does he affect the game when he's on the field?
Branson is real twitchy. He's not a very tall guy, but he's very powerful. He's fast. He's probably the best in shape because he's smaller than the rest of them. So he'll probably be able to play the most reps just because he's in shape, probably a little bit more than the rest. But really good football player. I think he'll make a ton of plays this year, rushing the passer, and probably some disruptive plays in the backfield and running backs.
Akeem Messidor, how is he holding up? How's he doing? And that rotation you have, at defensive end.
He's doing really well. Of course, he was one of the guys that was out this spring, and but we've kind of held him a little bit at times in camp. But he's full go now. He looks fine to me. He looks like he's always looked. From what I saw on film last year, that's what he looks like. So I expect him to have a good year. Everything seems to be a go with him this week.
And the rotation there just seems pretty darn good, right? At the end.
There's a bunch of guys, Of course, Najee is a guy that's really stood out. Bang, the freshman, Chance Williams. There's just a bunch of guys. Jaden Wayne's going to get some snaps. So I'm excited to see them underneath the lights and see who plays the best. Sometimes the young guys you don't know. Sometimes it takes them a while in college football for things to slow down. So game day is going to be different for them than they've ever seen it.
What kind of advice do you give the youngest guys? They're going to be all hyped up. What's the fine line between being hyped up and being calm?
Just don't try to do too much. Just play within the defense. Do what you've seen on film. And just stick to that, and you'll usually be fine. As the season goes, because freshmen are like that. I remember when I was a freshman. You think about everything that could happen, trying to make a play. And when you kind of go back and you do what you're supposed to do, the plays end up finding you. You don't have to go find the play. So I think they'll be fine. But that's the biggest thing. Just stick it to the game plan and don't ad-lib and do your own thing.
I asked Mario, between the first and second game, I always hear that there's the biggest improvement right before the second game. What do you expect as a coach for the first game? What are some of the things that might happen?
Well, you want to tackle well, and you preach about it all the time, and you don't tackle a lot at practice, and then you get in the first game and you're preaching about it, and early on you're probably not going to tackle real well because you're going to overshoot or overrun some things. But if you get a lot of people running to the football, it makes up for it. So effort has always been the key to tackling for me. And through the course of the year, you'll become better tacklers, but you got to play with great effort in order to get guys down on the ground.
Were you comfortable at the close of camp with where the run defense was in general?
The first scrimmage wasn't good. The second scrimmage was really good. I think they had one run. That was a big run with the ones. Other than that, the ones didn't give up too much. So, I think we'll be okay. I think we've got a lot of different things we can do on defense, and I'm excited. You got to stop the run. That's number one. A lot of people worried about our size, but I think if you do different things up front for us, slant and angling and bringing pressure, you can kind of eliminate gaps that way. And not too many people are really big to where they just sit there and play. The Alabamas of the world, the Georgia that's bigger than everybody, they kind of beat up on everybody. But everybody else has to find movement in order to stop the run.
A little bit about James Williams and how schematically he gives you a lot of different options with his skill set and the way you can move him around.
Yeah, he's a guy who can play a couple positions. He can play the boundary safety, he can play the sandbacker. So he's a guy that's going to create depth at another position, wherever it is. He's playing boundary safety for us, but he'll play some sand throughout the year. It's just we'll probably pick and choose what games he'll play an outside linebacker, which one he'll be dedicated just playing back there at the safety position.
Is that going to be kind of a game-by-game decision, or is it going to be almost like a package-by-package?
It's going to be game by game, how we feel like matchups and different things, whether it's a tight end we need to cover with an outside linebacker, or do we want to blitz a bigger guy, because he's bigger than all that, the sandbacker, so it'll be game by game.
At corner, it seems like you have a lot of body types and different skill sets. Do you match those week to week based on the wide receiver personnel, or is it kind of, these are our guys, they're going to play the most?
Yeah, I mean, you can. If you're going to face a bunch of big receivers, you need some big bodies, of course. But just in general, normal size, you want to play the guys that are kind of hot, you know. The game usually comes down to if you're stopping the run, people are going to start throwing to the outside. And they're going to throw it to the outside, and you got to play the back shoulder and all that. Longer guys are usually better at it, but if a guy that's shorter that's really got a knack for playing the football, you know, they're good at it. I had 2 last year that were really good. They wasn't real big, but they knew, you know, what their deficiencies was, and that's probably the most important thing. You know what you don't do well or what you need to do, and cover it up by technique or playing off or press bail, whatever it may be.
Anything else for Coach? All right, Coach, thank you for your time.
Easy group.
Thank you.
Thank you.